Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Now, I just thought of this. There was an old TV show well before our time, way back in the day, but I still remember the title of the show and the slogan that went along with the show. And the show was called The Shadow. I'm talking, this is probably like in the 50s or 60s. And when they imaged the show, they said, the shadow knows. The shadow knows. Well, in our lives, the shadow does know, and the shadow is holding you back from moving your life forward. We're going to talk about shadow work today, and she runs deep in this. Yeah, I know a little bit about it, but we're going to learn so much more from her. She's an amazing life coach, helps people move their lives forward, make these realizations as she's done for me along the way many times. And we're the shadow knows. So does she. Dawn Manderfeld joins us today. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. It's been a
So,
good week.
I can't believe the week's almost over. You said
I'm
that. I
okay
had
with that. I'm okay with that.
same. It just clicked in my head. Wait a minute. Yeah. The week is. It's been a week. It's been a week. Um, let's go back to where we left off when we talk about shadow work, and how you have to address it if you want to get the things in life that you feel you deserve, or if you feel that there's a block there, you're stuck, whatever it is. What are we referring to basically when we say the shadow thing?
Well, last week we kind of talked about when you actually hit a wall
Yep.
and you're trying to figure out how to deal with that emotion. Well, that's the other form of saying what shadow work is that it's really rooted like deep inside of us. And it's like the part of us that we often reject and we don't want to deal with. We want to just keep pushing it back in our mind because we don't know how to deal with it or it's going to be
Mm,
too emotional to deal with it. So we put it in the unconscious part of our brain. But then when certain situations come up, certain we'll just leave it there. Certain situations that are going to come up and all of a sudden you're hyperventilating, you're feeling very insecure, your heart is racing, and you're trying to figure out why you're feeling that way. And basically, what it is, it's something that you have repressed and that you have put in the unconscious part of your mind, and your memory's trying to get it out for you to deal with it. So when I do shadow work, it often involves very much introspection, self-reflection, and exploring that person's past experiences
hmm
and their emotional triggers. We talked a little bit about triggers last week also.
Yep.
What triggers it? Something comes up. Somebody says something to you. You're in a relationship. They say a certain sentence, or all of a sudden they have a certain reaction, and you're trying everything in your power not to freak out. So when you do shadow work, it really is so important to know that you have to value yourself moving forward to be able to work through that, and that it's
Mm.
okay. Let it take its course and take time doing it so that you are literally hitting it head on and dealing with it.
When you say value yourself to take this on, I got a visual of a wall of snow, and you have a snowblower that you're pushing, and you're trying to get through it. Where you live, you know about snow. Go a little bit more. When you value yourself or you love yourself, which isn't easy to do, and you have to do the shadow work to get there. Now you're in a mammoth snowplow where you you plow right through that snow. You move right through that snow with no issues. Maybe you might hit a little bump along the way, but it's vastly different. Does that make sense?
It does, because once you quit ignoring it, and once you realize that you are not moving forward in the way you want to move forward, because this even affects your goals and it affects your dreams.
Mm.
You're always going to have something stop you. And if you always give in to that and you don't work through it, you are missing out on so much happiness. You are missing out on getting to your goals. You could even be missing out on your dream job, your dream relationship, whatever it may be. When you suppress those emotions
Mm,
and you keep rejecting them and trying to shove them back in your brain, thinking, I'm just going crazy for the moment. I don't want to deal with it. You're literally hurting yourself.
mm.
So once you just start working with them, it doesn't make any difference how big that snowball is. You're going to plow right through it because all of a sudden your confidence has changed, your emotional status has changed, and all of a sudden you realize, why did I hang on to that for so long? Why did I keep suppressing it? Why did I keep rejecting working through that to get change? We do it to ourselves. But unless you understand what it is and what's going on, and you're talking with somebody, it's not so easy to figure out what that is. What are your trigger
Mm.
points? You get them, but then you think that they're okay to have because they're protecting you. A lot of times when we get those triggers, it is because we have not dealt with something that we need to deal with, and it's stopping us from moving forward to where we want to be.
It's almost as if it's an emergency situation where don't want to deal with it, put it over to the side. I'm going to protect you. And essentially we're all talking about the subconscious, right?
Yep.
Mm,
Yep. But our subconscious works very, very much with our heart and soul. So it's like a two-part thing. Just like we've talked in the past about forgiveness and all these different things, your heart can have a whole much harder time dealing with it than your brain can. Because in your brain, you can just say, okay, I forgave, I need to move on. But then something comes up and you remember that, and your heart just is like, oh, but that really did happen. So it's getting your brain and your heart to work together to know that you literally have worked through that thing in your childhood or that
mm.
thing in a past relationship or that thing with your parents,
Yep.
with a friend, and you know now that you're going to be okay because it's made you a stronger person.
I get a lot of downloads of songs and I find that there's messages in them. And this applies to what we're talking about. Coincidence? I don't think there's any coincidences. I played this song, don't laugh, like 40 times in the last 2 days. And it wasn't even like I loved the song back in the day, but the lyrics are take these chances, place them in a box for a quieter time. Lights down, you up and die. That
Oh,
song is Ants Marching by Dave Matthews Band. And essentially, as I look deeper into the lyrics and now better understand them, excuse me, it's about the ants going on their day. Everybody's doing the same thing every day, autopilot, autopilot. But take these chances. We say this all the time. So take a chance on this, take a chance on that. Why don't we do it? Because of fear, subconscious kicking in. So what do we say? Kind of just what you said a second ago. We put them over to the side. We place them in a box for a quieter time. So we say, I'll deal with that later. You know, it's busy right now. Sometimes we make ourselves busy just so we,
don't
we
have to deal with it.
have to deal with. We just put in that box over there. But guess what happens? Lights down, you up and die. So you may never even get to realize what you put in the box. That could have been the greatest business idea, the greatest person, the greatest everything, but your subconscious got in the way because you didn't do the shadow work.
Yeah.
Are there different ways to look? You had said at one point there's different types of shadows or shadow work. I've never heard that. I've just heard, the shadow work is what we need to work on.
It is, but it can come, it depends on what stage of life you're in that you put those shadows in your head in the back. Some can be from your childhood, some can be from the early part of your adulthood, and some can start at midlife crisis that we've talked about before. So each one of them doesn't always deal with the past. It can literally deal with something that happened 2 years ago or 3 years ago. A lot of times when people say the past, it's always way back in our childhood. But there's in-depth shadowing, there's what I call medium shadowing, which is something that happened in a relationship before the one you're in now.
Mm.
So it had nothing to do with maybe something in your childhood. And then there's one that I believe happens when midlife crisis starts for some people.
Thanks
That's
for
why I
sharing that.
say there's just there's different levels, but you kind of go through the process the same way. It's just that sometimes it can take a lot longer if it's something manifesting from your childhood that's now been brought into your adulthood and it keeps showing up over and over again, not just once or twice, but over and over and over again.
In my personal view of shadow work, I always go back to childhood because I think, in my experience and research, studying, the majority of it is there. I wonder if that's true, the
I
majority.
would say a lot of the times it is, yeah.
And then next to that would be, like you said, the relationship before. If you're in another relationship, there's stuff there that you're carrying. Don't fool yourself.
Yeah.
If you think I'm good now, everything's fine. Yeah, that was then, this is now. No, no. There's little, might not be major stuff, but there's little pieces along the way, and certainly situations along the way. Just
Yeah.
life in general.
Yep.
I bet you have a lot of clients that have like the aha moment when they connect it.
Yeah, and it has put me in tears before,
Mm,
whether it's a couple coming in or a parent and a child or um, a single person, just one person counseling, whatever. It's like when they finally make that connection and they finally realize, oh, wow,
mm.
oh, wow. That's when the healing happens for anything that holds us back. Because every time you're doing shadowing work, there has to be a healing that happens before you can completely just get rid of it.
Yeah. And that's a great point to bring up because one can't think that you had the aha moment. And tomorrow's going to be great. Takes a little bit of time for it to work its way in.
It does.
I I think back to childhood. By the way, 631 319 6275 if you want to reach out. Instant feedback, Steve at gmail.com. I had a realization last week where I think I shared, I'm in a men's group and they were talking about shadow work and there was 12 questions. And you just answer them personally. What do you want people? What do you hide from people? Like questions like that. Now, my dad passed away when I was 21. Suddenly, didn't have a great relationship with him. Parents got divorced way back. And out of those 12 questions, my answers, at least three or four of them addressed my father. I wasn't even trying. It just came up. I'm like, oh, whoa. I got an honest answer, and we didn't even share the answers. It was like for yourself, like you say, you have to journal so you can see it in front of your face. That was there's probably some shadow work I need to do in regard to my father based on, I'm not even surprised. I mean, that came up, but now I saw it in front of me and I wasn't expecting it. Let's put it that way. I wasn't expecting it.
Yeah.
And that
But it's
wasn't from
probably a good
childhood.
thing that it happened.
Yeah, but that wasn't from my childhood. That,
Yep.
unless you want to say you're 21, you're still a kid. All right, maybe we'll go with that. Um, but yeah, it was an eye opener. It's like
That's
an
what I mean. When you keep those things in your head, they can be from all different ages, not just childhood.
yes,
So
yes.
that there was, like I said, when you're becoming an adult, in the very part where you're starting to get on your own, making your own decisions,
Mm,
moving with the life you want. That's where you're going to have to go back and deal with now because your dad didn't have a big part of that.
no,
And I do have questions I will ask my clients. And I will usually say, I'll do it at the end of our meeting and say, this is what I want you to think about this week. And this is what we're going to talk about on our next, visit.
Yep.
And because it gives them time to really think about it, because I don't want just off the cuff answers unless you know them. I really want people to heal, and I really want them to be able to move forward. And so I want them to take time to think about it.
There's some good in thinking about it and some good in just the instant answer because then
Yep.
you didn't overprocess it. I think we have a call. Can you hear us?
Yes, hi. How you doing today?
Real well. How you doing? What's your name?
I'm doing excellent. Yes, my first name is Tom. Basically, my mom's getting older now, and I'm seeing a change in her. She's forgetting a lot, and I'm trying to help her out. She doesn't want to accept the fact that she needs help. She's always been very independent. Can you help with something like this?
I do. One of my main counseling and coaching is in elderly care. It is something that I literally still do myself. I have a couple clients. I go into their homes and I help their families with them. I help them work through it and I relieve the families from a time and I stay with them. And so that is one of the biggest things that I do help with. I've worked in that department for many years, and there are a lot of ideas. If you go to my website, livingbb.org, you can look under elderly care, and there's literally information on there, ideas on there, and it's all in there so that you can get an idea of what may help with your situation. I don't know a whole lot about it. I don't know what her medical condition is. I also worked in the medical field, so I have that knowledge behind it. But yes, there are options that can really help.
I didn't know that aspect of you.
Oh, really?
No.
Oh, yeah. I work with that on a daily basis.
Oh my gosh. Wow. So you learn something new every day. And the first thing that came to my mind, along with you supporting those seniors, um, imagine getting to age 80, 85, and not confronting the shadows in your life at that
Yeah.
point. I mean, it's never too late, right?
Oh, no, no, no. As long as, but like what Tom said, when they're starting to lose their memory a little bit more,
Hmm.
the biggest thing that I can encourage you to do, Tom, is bring up her childhood. Because when they start getting like that, they remember the past way more than they remember what happened yesterday or what happened this morning. But if you can bring up a situation and say, hey, mom, what happened when you were this age? What did you do at this age? It will reset their mind literally,
Wow.
where during that time, you can bring up the fact that, hey, mom, this is what I'm trying to help you with, but yesterday you couldn't remember it. Do you remember now? You're triggering a whole different part of their brain that you literally would be able to get into and bring up issues that you're dealing with for today, if that
Wow.
helps you at all.
Interesting. Because when do they have an opportunity to think about their past, their childhood, 40 years ago? When does it even come up? If you're 85 years old, whatever, they're not just going to think of it just because, unless an old TV show comes on, you see a picture or something like that. Um, Talk about aha moments. I'll bet there's like major connections there. The mind is amazing. Like we
Is
take it for granted. Number one, number two, we also take for granted that with all the deep research, studying neuroscience, bioscience, all of that, they haven't figured us out yet.
I-
Nobody
I'm
really
not
has.
so sure that will ever happen.
Yeah, right.
We're just all too individual. There's not any of us alike. My twins aren't even. I mean, they have a lot of likeness, very different than my other kids, but still, they're individuals. And oh yeah,
100%. And
yeah,
you had shared that before. I think I shared that I'm a
you're a
twin,
twin too.
right?
Yep.
But we're very different, but very, very similar in many ways. And I've done the shadow work and worked on myself. And my sister I know hasn't, and I've encouraged her along the way. Um, but also even the genetics, like health things that I had, she's never even had. So when people say, well, everything's genetics, everybody's the same. It's no. It only accounts for, as I hear, like 4 or 5% in terms of genetics.
Yeah, it's interesting because if I look at myself and my siblings, we all take on different genetics from our parents.
Right?
And I have two brothers and I have a sister. And when I look back at it, I can literally look and I'm learning about this now. I love research. I love learning. I'm
Same.
constantly like learning, but I can see different when I'm learning genetics and different things like that. I can definitely see um, a lot of my mom and one of my brothers, and yet a lot of my dad and me. And then now I'm starting to see more of my mom and me,
Mm.
and I'm starting to see more of my mom or my dad and my sister. It's just really it's crazy, but it's interesting.
It's
So
interesting when you start
it's
looking at it
fun.
now, years later.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't have a great relationship with my father. Guess who I am? I'm him. Like
Yeah.
it, and the things that maybe didn't support me, I do differently with my kids. But my personality is very similar, and there's pieces in my mom there as well. But I believe you don't see that, the triggers, the shadow work, all of that until you start diving into it. Like you see things in a different way, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's kind of fascinating, when you're aware. We just go through life like, like the ants marching every day. Um, but then you miss everything, and I'm sure the ants, with their antennas waving up and down the tree, they're not seeing things around. They're getting it done. That's all good. But every day it's the same. Do you want it every day to be this exactly the same? I don't think so. I don't think so.
No, I've had too much of that.
Groundhog
You
Day.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, okay, no. I'm okay if tomorrow is a little different than today.
Well, why is today almost exactly like yesterday for all of us or many of us? Why is that? Isn't it because of our fear? Because you would do different things and you change it up, but your subconscious, that shadow in there, is keeping it the same because it's comfortable.
Um, my days are the same as far as clients and what I do,
Sure.
but they're never alike as far as what I actually deal with. And even with the elderly care that I do, not one day is ever the same.
I'll bet.
So I'm never bored. I don't know what bored means, but we are creatures of habit. And so if we just have our schedule and we keep doing our habit, we seem to handle life a whole lot better when it's so stressful. Where if we would add something in different, give it 30 days to have a new habit, we'd be surprised at how every little thing we're willing to change or add into our routine can literally help us back out of a rut if we're stuck.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you see it differently too.
You do.
And when those new things crop up and you react in a certain way, you start realizing that, oh, I can handle that. I can. And yes, days are going to be fairly similar. We have structure. What are you going to do? Wake up and say, I'm going to work late today. I'm just going to change it up. You can't do that,
Yeah.
just for the sake of changing it. No, but within that structure. But once you start diving into the shadow work, it's a game changer. You see,
Yeah.
it's almost as if you've changed your glasses and now you have clarity in different areas. Livingbb.org, best way to reach you.
Yes. And you can also call me at 952-200-1103. And my other email is Dawn Renee, RENAE, at livingbb.org.
Great talking with you today. I wondered where we were going to go when we continued talking about shadow work, but we went in some interesting directions, and the senior part of you and supporting, I didn't even realize we never talked about that. So I'm glad that
Yeah.
came to light.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Bob, for calling.
We'll talk to you next time we get together.
That sounds great. Have a blessed weekend.
You too. I'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.